got no idea where the microphone is. Like, I just got no idea what's recording this sound though. Because my headset's off. Just bugging me out. Yeah. Need to get a mic. one's a virtual machine, this one's my local computer. Just shows you how many active processes there are running right now. Cool. Just like What is this shit? Not feeling this music going.
the sound check. Alright, lots to do today. But we're going to start with Linux Systems Administration Unit 5. We're doing the recording. We've been going through the course the whole time. Got a couple people on YouTube already. Raven and Mr. Anderson, hopefully stuff you should see. Traffic people over there good. Alright, so let's do the recording of this, and then maybe I'll pop back on in a little bit and do some regular, just Linux stuff all day. We'll see how that goes. But let's get the course stuff out of the way. You'll notice that the date is from yesterday, because that's when we originally did the course. And then and I do the recording the day after for anybody that wants it to follow along with us. So the course is being run out of Discord. You can hop down into Discord at any time. It's in the description of YouTube. And on the Twitch side, it's actually used to exclamation mark Discord. All right, let's get into it then. So Linux Systems Administration Unit 5. My name is Scott Champagne. You guys know who I am. I don't try to hide where I'm online. Here's our announcements. We're in week 5. We've been going through this. I think a lot of people are starting to get the cadence of Saturday to Saturday and doing the work and doing the discussion questions and thinking through these problems. But if I had any announcements or reschedules that go here, I will tell you, probably week 7, which is going to be this is 5, so then it'll be 6, 7. Actually, week 8, I will be probably traveling back from Hawaii, so I will probably have to move some stuff around that week. Maybe I'll move the meeting to a Sunday or something, but we'll figure it out. And then a quick reminder, just hold your exercise sheets, don't send those in to me. We were sending those in to me for the first few weeks, but I literally got inundated with way too much work, and there was no way I was going to. When I thought I only had 40 people doing it, that was fine, I could have kept up. But when there was 195 people said they were coming, I just couldn't keep up anymore. So we'll hold all your exercise stuff to the end. I'm going to figure out a way to get them like graded so that you guys feel like you actually learned something. And then also there will be, with that, there's that certification. So if you guys want a little cool certificate that shows that you did the course, and you'll be able to show people that you learned something on Linux, I guess. Really, learning Linux is what proves that you learned Linux, but you'll have one more thing to, if you don't have anything on your resume, you'll have something. So let's get into it. So last week, we had some of the topics to discuss, and in the discussion topics, you have to go down to the Discord, and you have to post one time during the week, and then one response, so you're thinking throughout the week. And the first one was about this topic of an operations bridge. And you go into this, wiki here, and you read about what an operations bridge is. And a lot of people said they had never heard of one, and they didn't know what's going on with it. So this gives you some of the rundown of, run an operations team, and you want to stand up an operations bridge. These are the things that are good about it. These are the things that are bad about it. It costs money, you need resources, that kind of stuff. And then I asked you some questions for that week on, what did you learn? What do you think would be hard to implement? What do you already do well that you could then take from that and do better? And that's something to think about. Then last week we also talked about, you come into a server incident and your team has no documentation. So what are you going to do? How are you going to make this better? How are you going to work out a procedure so that, if you're a senior person, you don't want to be called out and the junior person can't do it. You need to figure out how you're going to do this. So build out a document, right? If I said you use AI for that, just let us know if you did. And something that's a really good step. And some of you, maybe you're working on a team where you're going to go to a team one day, and you can take that documentation and you can filter it down to just the stuff that's important to you. Okay, so that's kind of the goal of a lot of this, is to get you guys understanding that, as systems administrators, which is what this course is about, you are working on operations, and operations are keeping the business going. And the primary key performance indicator, we'll call KPI, for the operations team is uptime. Everything else is secondary to uptime. Keep those systems up, keep those systems making money, keep those systems answering questions for our customers that bought stuff. Whatever it is, keep that up at the highest uptime you can. That's the primary driver, right? If somebody clicks on your webpage and it's not there for some reason, that's the thing against you in operation, right? However you want to look at that. All right. So we come down here, there was worksheet last week and there was lab. I'm not going to go over those, but we will go over this week's worksheet and lab as we get to it, and then we'll kind of go from there. So, that's last week. This week, there's a discussion post, and I'm just giving you the high level. When you actually go to the Discord, when you actually go over to the Discord here, and you actually drop this, and you actually drop down into the project channel. here's all the materials in the project channel, here's the questions, and you can go in and here's a little more than what I'm showing here. I'm just giving a high level here. But as you go reading about tax.miter.org, one of the concepts that I give you, why is the systems administrator not directly in security roles? Why would you want to know these things, right? Those are the things you need to think about, right? So this is a potential future career for you, or maybe you're like, oh, I do project management, but I want to know what those IT people do. This could be a way to kind of figure that out, right? And you may say, hey, Sean, I don't even want to be on the red team. Okay, that's fine. Then you're playing blue. If you're not red, if you're not offensive against your company, every decision you make is a defensive decision to protect your organization. And if it's not, I would posit that you don't understand what you're doing. But let me back up. What I mean by that is security is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? So what did I just say was the number one thing about a systems operations team is availability, the uptime of the system, right? So you are doing security, whether you think about it or not, you're just doing defensive security. So it behooves you to know these things. I always wonder when this thing's going to get done wrong. All right. Anyway, so and that was the first one. So we've got to understand a little bit about how teams attack and how attacks play out. And then there's persistent threat actors, we call APTs, and persistent. And there's all kinds of things for you to go dig into as you get into that, right? And then the second discussion post deals with something you're going to be doing in lab, which is user dot files. Now, I always tell you guys, if you're doing this, if you're watching this video, or if you are doing the course, there's two things you should always do when I'm up here talking. One, have notes up in case I just start saying weird stuff. You're like, the heck was the APT, and what was the diamond intrusion model? What was, what were all these things that Scott was talking about, right? I didn't mention the diamond intrusion model, but maybe I might have. And then I'm saying, never fear, you can just do an exclamation mark Discord on the Twitch side, and it'll show you the Discord link if you want it. All right, so, right here. You should have that open, and then you should also have at least some type of terminal. We have labs available. You can get into those through our syllabus, which is also open to Discord. All those things are in the project chain, right? So, here, I'll do it for you. Oh, you got it right, okay. And then I'll link that over for you guys over on the YouTube side as well. So, not because I'm speaking that's important or anything. I'm just saying, while somebody is trying to show you anything if you want to learn it. Have notes out, be in a place where you can type along with them if possible. Alright, so you are going to, in the labs this week, deal with dot files and user environment. And maybe, as you become a systems administrator, there's nothing wrong with this. I just tell you, I'm very vanilla. I'll jump into any system and not really change anything about what I'm doing. But some people love to customize every little aspect of their environment, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But the way you do the customization of how the bash shell that you're in, right, the way you customize this shell is through your dot files. So if I was the root user right now, which I am, everything about becoming this user, as I did a sudo -i to become this user, everything happened right here to set up my user in my bash rc or my C# file. We used to call those C# files, right? Yeah, and look, you can change anything you want. Some people actually, I tell you guys, I never even use colors. The reason colors exist is because they're in most modern Linux systems. I'm so used to, from the HPUX days and the AIX days and the Solaris days, and when I jumped through different environments, I was almost always in a C shell back then. Sometimes I was in a K shell as well. T shell, not very. I don't think I've ever been in a T shell professionally, but they exist. But your files will determine what you get, and this is a bash rc. I've shown you guys this in other things where you don't always get colors. Those colors only show up because of your aliases, right? And there's an alias here where ls is actually ls color auto. And if I wanted to take that alias away, if I did unalias on ls, right, and then I do an ls-a, I don't get those colors anymore. So you can't always rely on those colors as an engineer and that kind of stuff. Sometimes when you're down in, like, if you're in a what do we call a switch root environment, or some CH root environments won't have them, and also if you're down in rescue environments, you're not going to have those colors all the time. So I would, this is what we talk about a lot. Like, customization's fine, but you got to understand what's going on in the system as well. So we're not going to go over that right now, but we will talk about, if you go find a blog or an article during your discussion, we can have that discussion around, hey, how do I want to set up my environment? And then I ask you some questions, and this one's I think has some good questions, because this kind of gets to the crux of it. Once you understand how your environment files are set up, and once you understand all the things you can do, you're a systems administrator for this course. What problems do you think are going to come up around users in their dot files? And I will tell you, the most unique and ridiculous problems I've come up with in my career, 20 plus years of engineering, and you're always an administrator keeping the systems running, have come from users and stuff they did to themselves in their dot files. The most unique, strange things I've ever run into have come from users. Well, that's always true, right? Users are going to use. But the system users are going to do the weirdest stuff, and they're going to be like, hey, I don't know how I got here. Can you help me unravel this? And it's like they just give you a big ball of yarn and knots, and you're like, ah. So you have two options. And I talked about this yesterday, so I guess I'll mention it now in the course. I will try to help them with what's going on, but if we both come to a loss, I will just wipe their files and reallocate from etsy-skel all of their dot files. Yeah, users going to use. I've been saying that for a long time. Yeah, users going to use. We will reallocate them, make sure they can get back in, and then say, hey, look, man, you are working in this brand new, freshly painted house that I just gave you. If you start moving stuff in and create a trap door right under yourself as you come in, I can't help you. But like, I will help a user to a point, and then I will just wipe back to new, verify it works, and then tell them, all right, this is good stuff. Because once somebody buys a house, what are you going to do? You're going to stop them from painting the interior. You're going to stop them from, putting a ball and chain right in front. You can't stop them. They can do whatever they want. It's their environment. So knowing that is very critical. Like understanding how you can customize an environment will help you to understand how your users are going to do weird stuff in your environment. All right, so let's get that out of the way. You should be doing the worksheet for this week. We'll go into that. The lab, get into a lab environment, understand some of the basics of Linux. We have a lab environment you can get into, but you can also use your home environment. You can also use a Killer Coda environment, which is free out there in the world. And then the project, there's a project for the course. You can keep working on the project as well. That culminates in 12 weeks, right around the time of Christmas, when we finish this course up. So people that want to present their projects or those kind of things can do that. And you might say, well, I'm not going to go over the project right now, but we've done the project in previous recordings. You say, what level should I build that project to? Well, something you're proud to show some potential employer, or if you want to go into consulting, it should be good enough to show somebody, hey, this is my previous work. And if it's not, I would just say, don't even do it, right? Because like this is for you, and if you don't care enough to do that to that level, I wouldn't do it. I would go find something else. Yeah, Nick, these are all in a single playlist, yes. This is Unit 5, yep. All the other ones are in a playlist called Linux Systems Administration. All right, so our topics of discussion for this week are users and groups, which is the lab stuff, and then scanning and enumerating systems. Those are things that we're going to kind of talk about. So scanning and enumerating systems, we talk about network scans where we can sweep a whole range, and then targeted scans where once we find the devices in that range, we can individually hit those different pieces. And then we write reports about those data, right? If it's internal, there's basically two ways that you would scan and enumerate systems in my mind, right? And as a Linux systems administrator, you're going to do it to find your inventories and build your inventories. I keep giving this scenario, and people probably think it's silly, but it's an accurate scenario. You get hired, the boss sits you down, and he's like, yes, I got a Linux systems administrator. So you sit there and he goes, okay, here's all your systems. And he makes sure that you can get into like your jump box or whatever node that is documented, right? Or maybe you just set up your laptop and he goes, okay, you're in charge of everything. And then you sit there and you say, hey, do we have a list of all the systems? And your manager just pats you on the shoulder and goes, oh, you. And he turns around and walks out because nobody has documentation of anything, right? Like the guy before you didn't document it, right? So, just there it goes. All right. Did I lose you guys or something? Those are weird messages. But anyways, okay. Your manager's going to walk out because he doesn't know, and you don't know, but he knows that you're a Linux engineer, so you can just fix it all, right? He expects you to just fix it all. Like, there's no, it is what it is. So in that case, you may have to scan your network and figure out what's going on, enumerate the devices and those kind of things. So network scans can be useful for that. And then the targeted scan may help you to define, as you go up and down the ports, so the number of ports that exist in both the TCP and the UDP range it's 2 to the power of 16. So it's the number 0 through 65,535, right? Those are the numbers. But 0 can't be used, and 65,535 can't be used, so there's 65,534 total usable ports for TCP and UDP. So you can scan up and down a box, and Nmap makes it super easy. You don't have to like netcat each of the boxes anymore. But you can hit all of these ports, right? And there's ways to walk them. And from a systems administrator side of things, you're not doing anything malicious to remap your network, and you're not doing anything malicious. You are scanning your system, right? And you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to find system names and IPs if you have DNS mapping. You're trying to find systems, open ports, and services. Now, from a scanning standpoint, you only need to do this if you don't have access. I've showed you guys when we can SSH into a box, when we own a box's root, you never have to nmap that box. So why would you? I mean, you can to test it, but you have SS and netstat internally. You can see what ports that device is listening to. Does that make sense? So those are two sides of the same type of thing, but when you're first getting into an environment, you're trying to figure it out. Network scans and targeted scans exist and those kind of things. And then if you can, you determine the system type. If a system has 3389 open, which is RDP for Windows, you probably can surmise that's not like an Ubuntu box. Now, could an Ubuntu box or could a Red Hat box have 3389 open? Sure, but they probably won't, not unless somebody's doing something weird on there. Typically, if something's got 3389 open, it's RDP, right? It's a Windows box. That's how you connect into it. So, scanning and enumerating systems is a thing that we're going to practice this week. All right, and then there's the lab task for this week. So let's go back here to scanning, and let's pull up the worksheet for this week. So the worksheet for this week is going to go over the scanning part a little bit. And these are all in. Some of you are going to ask, the question's going to come up for sure. Where is this all at? If you go on our Discord, you go down the ProLug projects, here's all the project stuff right here, right? The worksheet that I'm showing, the labs for this week, it says Unit 5's up, all the discussions, there you go, that's all the work for this week, right? You come down, Unit 5 discussion, here's your instructions, hold on to these for later. Here's the discussions we just went over, so we talked about that. Here's some definitions and terminology. Again, if you struggle with notes or you don't know what to throw in your notepad as you're listening, footprinting, scanning, enumeration, system hacking, escalation of privilege, rule of least privilege. Go find out what those things are. We're kind of hitting each of these as we go, but we're kind of talking about it. And then covering traps and planting backdoors. Now, if you don't know what any of those mean, obviously you can go on to Google or DuckDuckGo Safari, you can go travel the interwebs. But also all of these are discussed in that attack.miter.org sheet if you go look at that page. But we are trying to footprint and then enumerate all of the devices. So we want to see what our network footprint looks like, what are the networks we're in, and what are the ranges and the IPs that exist out there. And then we're trying to enumerate them by writing them all down and building an inventory for our systems. I've said this in previous weeks, but your inventory is the most crucial thing for you as an administrator because you can't protect or update or maintain uptime on a set of servers that you don't know where they all are. If you don't have an inventory of everything, you've got nothing, right? You have no security of a thing. Like if I told you to secure my house right now, and you're like, all right, I can secure your house. I got 10 guys and they're all armed. Let me see what your house looks like. And I go, you can't even know how many rooms and hallways there are. And you're like, all right, well, I'll put all the guys up front. And I go, well, there's a lot in the back. And then you go, well, I'll put all the guys in the front and the back. And I go, there's that side door. And then you do all that. And I go, we left the shutter open and they come in through the basement or whatever. And you're like, I didn't fucking know there was a basement. There's no basement in my house. Arizona doesn't really have a lot of basements. But Phoenix, especially with the caliche out here, that's this really hard rock that you have to pick through with it's wild. It's very hard for people to build pools out here when they have to dig through it and pick through it. But jackhammer and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so my point is understand your definitions and terminology, right? And then we come down here. These are other things for notes. If people are linking stuff as we do discussions, by the way, if you're in our Discord, when we do our talks, everything that we did as part of the talk is right here. So if you came in here and went and read through what happened, you would have all of the different, all the links and stuff that people had talked about. You'd miss some of the context and stuff, but we've got some context here. But the point is, you would have the ability to go back and look at what we were talking about and what we were doing. So there's that. All right. Then there's the lab. You're going to do the lab. That's something to just do on your own time. We've got lab servers available for you guys through the Professional Linux Users Group. And then for this week, I say map the internal ProLug network. So our Professional Linux Users Group network for the lab is internally 192.168.200.0/24. So what does that mean? Well, all the Rocky servers exist on 192.168.200 and then 50 through 69. So if I were to go to this box right here, and I say clear IP address, he is 192.168.200.58/24. Okay, so that's him right there. He's in there. And I say go ahead and map that network. Use nmap. Find how you want to nmap against 192.168.200.0/24. So that's a 256 host range. You can't use the first one because it's a network. You can't use the last one because it's a broadcast. So there's 254 usable hosts. And I give you some hints here of which ones may be of interest. There's a .1. The .1 is the router, which actually is a Linux device functioning as a router. There's the .25 device. The .25 device is Werewolf, so he's got some interesting ports open that you should be able to map back to being Werewolf. One of them is a 9873, is a common Werewolf port for how users come up. Also, DHCP should be open on that system, and a few other ones. I think you should see 2049 on that box because he's got NFS open to that range, so you should definitely see it. Yep. And then there's this other range, 100 to 254, so you can scan the whole range. But the 100 to 254 has a set of devices in it that have certain services on that I mapped, or I put certain services on these devices, mainly web, port 80, and SQL, or MariaDB, which is a SQL server, of 3306. 3306 is that default port. So if you scan these devices in this whole network from our lab, you should find all of them. I have nothing that's blocked off and not responding to ICMP, so you should find them. And then you could figure out, you could go get a template from the internet, you could ask an AI. Look, I'm allowing AI in this, even though I don't let my college students use AI. But for you guys, I am, because why would I limit you a real tool? Now you might say, why would you limit your college students a real tool? Well, it's because I want them to actually sit down and learn it. I don't mind if people in the industry are taking shortcuts. Students are different because students have chosen to do an academic thing, and academics are different than the academics of a thing are different than the efficacy of a thing. Let me just say it like that without going too much into that. But anyway, so back to this. What are you doing if you're doing the course? You're working through this and you're scanning, right? And you come here and you go, okay, I've got this tool called Nmap. I put on all the boxes the other night when we were kind of hanging out here. And if I go to the end of this, so if I just hit all the way down to the bottom, I think this will give me, go read here, and it will give me some pretty good, look at all these different ways we can do it. But at the bottom, it should give me some examples. I'm just hitting spacebar to go page by page. Nmap has all these functions and all these uses, and we can go look at all these things. But I think at the bottom of all this, it gives me some examples. If not, there's a whole bunch of different ways to go find examples. Keep going, keep going. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a long file. Alright. Alright, look at all these notes. These are all these other places that you can go read about and get better at this. But they should have right here, normally at the bottom of a man page. Not all of them, but I'm pretty sure at the bottom of a man page here. They should have, here's how, so I don't know how to do this, but I think I want to scan. By the way, this is a fun one. Did you know, for testing purposes, you are always allowed to hit scanme.nmap.org? So this is a fun one. You can always map that. From your home, from whatever, this is a perfectly legal thing for you to go scan. And you can go and do that in verbose mode if you want as well. And you can go and scan that external one all you want. There's no illegality of that. You're allowed to scan that and see what's going on inside of that device. Yeah, that's I had forgotten about that, but nmap.scanme.org. Let me I'll link that to you guys if you want it. So you can hit that and just test your scanning outside of your things. Internally, you can do it in your own lab. You can do whatever you want with your own technology. I don't know if you guys know that or have thought about that. You can do whatever you want. But it says here, okay, I can scan individual ranges, or it says that I could do this /24. So what if I wanted to do something like this? What if I wanted to go here and just throw an nmap like this? And then I know that we're doing 192.168.200.0/24. Maybe I could scan this network right now and figure out what's going on in there. And maybe this will go and it'll scan all those devices, and it's hitting some of these, and then it's telling me. So now you'll find all of this, right? This is a very raw report right here. And I can grab all this and go throw it in my notes. And I found this werewolf device. How did I know it was named werewolf? I must have some kind of mapping, probably DNS or something to map that. 200.1, I see that I can get into that box, but I also see it's MAC. Now I would need to determine, how do I want to report this? Maybe I group up all these boxes that are, maybe I group up all the names, like, okay, there's Rocky 18. Okay, I could take the 1 through 8, 1 through 19 boxes, even the one that I'm on, and I can say, okay, they all look like this, there's 19 of them, and then, MAC addresses are in a different table or something, maybe that's important. But then I see there's these other guys, and I go, what the heck are these? What? They got Jet Direct open. What the hell's a Jet Direct? Well, that's not right, because, so the mapping of the mapped address, the port that's open, and this comes from a file called your Etsy services. So if I just grep Jet Direct from Etsy services, I'll see that it's 9100. But here's the thing, here's the rub. This is one of the best things about open source in the world in general. Data gets old and inaccurate over time. Do you guys want to bet that I'm probably not running a Jet Direct? I don't even know what Jet Direct is. I think that's a type of server. But you guys want to probably bet that I'm not running a Jet Direct server off of those devices? Because I guarantee you I'm not. No, port 9100, and I can see this on these boxes, 9100 is a very common port for Node Exporter. And it's the default scanning port for Prometheus to pull from Node Exporter if you don't make any changes to the config. So 9100 is actually open on those boxes so that they can be queried by Prometheus, right? But I would expect maybe the Linux systems admin people that are doing this, I would expect you guys to go and find that out. If you report back to me, Jet Direct's open on those, I'm going to go. Not because I'm disappointed in you, because now you have incomplete documentation in your organization as you go forward. You think something's on your machines that's not, and you don't understand the nature of what's going on. Does that kind of make sense? This is for you guys, for your moving forward as systems administrators, right? This isn't for me. I don't sit around and go, those fools don't know how this stuff works. I could do that. I can do that anyways, but that's not the point of this course, right? That's not what I'm doing all this for. I sit atop my throne of all the Linux systems admins as the only guy that knows what's going on. No, I want you guys to see how this stuff works, right? All right, so anyway, so you come down. This is your topic stuff for your project. And then I didn't really do any digging deeper this week, but your reflection questions are what questions do you still have for this week? So if you're starting the course, Discord is free. Hop in the Discord, go down to Prolog Projects, and start on there. Now, there's a place called Beginner Start here, and that's where all of these are linked. So if you go to Beginner Start here, here's the playlist for the Linux Systems Administration course. So this will be the Unit 5 one, right? We're recording Unit 5 right now. So that's your worksheet. Then you come back over here and you've done your scan, you figure out how you want that to look, and then you put it in your notes. And look, you could then be dropped into any environment with a Linux box that had Nmap and be able to figure out what your environment looks like. Now in this case, I gave you the environment, but there's also other things. Maybe you've got a different network around in your environment that you could go scan as well. And you could say, hey, I just wanted to note that there was this other network that I had found, and in there are these other devices, and they are probably doing this, this, and this, and this. That's also acceptable, right? And I go and I look at them, I'm like, what the heck are all these? These are all these other devices sitting around doing all these other things. Let's see, what's the 65? We'll find 65. 85. What the heck's a Zeus admin? Right? We might have to go look that up. But 9090 is Prometheus, right? Typically, it can be a Prometheus server. So I don't know what Zeus admin is, but it must be that. But also, I don't know what's on 85. I don't actually know what I have on there. So finding stuff out about my network right now, right? And then any of these other ones. I thought 65 was open because 65 is the machine I'm actually on. But hold on. Let's see. Let's go take a little check here. We're doing IP config, right? Because we know technologies other than yeah. My .65 is not responding to it. So when you think about this, if a firewall's on and the device is responding to ICMP ping, it's very possible that it doesn't show up in a scan result, but it's there. 65 is there, but I don't see it here because it didn't find it with the scan. And I know 65 is on because I'm literally on this box right now. Right? There's a box that I'm connecting up into my Linux environment and then jumping over to Rocky, and then I just scan back, and he's not showing up there. So you could also discuss in your little write-up what the limitations are of Nmap. Nmap's not going to find all devices if they're not playing nice on the internet, if they're not responding to things for whatever reasons, right? All right, so that's that. Then the lab task for this week, looking at the shadow suite. So let's go look at the lab. We don't do the lab while we're live here, and I don't have you guys do the lab while we're doing the recording, but this is what the lab looks like. You have to have some type of Rocky server, either in your home lab or our systems, and then you go and you just start doing some stuff, make you do some commands. Just practice and warm up. And then we jump down here into the lab and I start to talk about some of the different files that are out there, and then you go and you start executing these commands and looking at how file systems are broken down and different things work, right? This is for you to kind of work through and maybe even note like what you're seeing as you go check out those different files, right? Then I break down the way that the etc pass WD and the etc group file work. So if you're looking on the system here and you do a cat etc pass WD, you see 7 fields across. They are all colon delimited, meaning the colon is the break. And you can then figure out what's going on inside of the system by breaking these out. So sometimes I've shown you guys where, let's say that I cat out the whole file. So that's going to come to the screen, and I say, okay, good. And then I grab that output, and I throw it through an *F with a colon to break on that field delimiter of the colon, right? And I say, you know what, go ahead and just print out for me the last field, so the 7th field. And just print that out for me, okay? And then maybe we sort them and unique-c them, and now we've counted out of that file, there is 1 with no value there. There are 6 with bin bash, so there's 7 that we logged into. There are 2 with bin sync, and those are the shells. So the 7th field is the default shell of that user. There are 10 that are user sbin no login, 2 with sbin no login, and 41 with sbin no login. So these ones here can't be logged into on the system. So what I could do then is I could say, well, okay, what users are able to log in on the system? And I could change this just a little bit right here. Watch this. I could say, maybe for bin bash, like that, right? And then I pull all that off. We'll just pull all that off if we want, right? And that'll just show me the ones that have been bashed. But then if you say, well, Scott, I only want to see that the first field. I say, okay, we can only show the first field if we want. We just do that *F again, and then we say only print out the first column. We still have the grep, but now I only want to see the first one. Does that make sense? So your awk is really useful for filtering down columns, only the columns you want to see, and grep is really useful for figuring out like a line selection, almost like a field selection if you wanted to think of it in a database sense, right? But the point is, we can filter down and say, okay, these are only the users that can log in with bin bash on our system. And if I say, hi, I really don't want root logging in, then I would go and change that, right? Don't do that, you'll break your system, but something to think about. So let me come down, I have you create some users, I have you create some users. I have you go look at the Etsy scale directory and modify the bash RC and then create more users and see if what you did in the Etsy scale gets populated down in the user's bash RC files. And that's very important because that is what happens, right? And then we just go look. One thing about that though, let me show you guys something here. Anything in a user's home directory is fair game for that user to do whatever they want to. So what do I mean by that? Let's jump out of here. Let's actually we'll stay in Werewolf over there. Let's go to here. Let's be I'm in my home system here, and I'm back to my user S Champagne. And I cd to home and S Champagne. That's my home directory, right? And I do an ls-al on my home directory. I got a bunch of stuff in here, but I want to show you guys something. When I get a .bash RC file, does anybody here remember permissions, or does anybody here work with permissions? This is in my home directory, and who is it owned by, and who is the group owner of it, and then what do they have permission to do on it? So look at that real quick. Let me take this one here. Why is it important to know who owns the file? I'm a user. I'm just a regular user right now, just a Champagne on my system. can't I? That's probably the chaplain. A champagne? What? You sons of bitch! Okay, my stupid closed captioning over there. Look at that thing. All right, calm down. The reason it's so important is because, like I was saying, once a user gets a hold of this, they can change their bash RC. But what if you want a permission set? What if you want something set, but the user can't change it? There's actually a place for that. Etsy profile, and I don't think I can even. Oh, I can read it, but CD Etsy it's profile.d. Sorry, .d is the directory, and all of these things in here get applied to my user as I log in, but I can't change it. So I can go read this openlava.sh, and this is going to add some pathing to me for OpenLava, which was a fork off of Platform LSF that got killed off years ago by IBM. But as my system comes up, and as I read through and change things, this script will always run, and it will always give me these variables as a user. User will always get the profile.d, and these are environmental variables that get set for me, and I get added to the path OpenLava 2.2 bin, because that's where I installed OpenLava, which is just a job scheduler for, it's now defunct because IBM threw them into the system. You can go look up OpenLava on Wiki if But the point is, this is always there, and then after we make those, this is interesting, after we make these variables, we export them. Anybody know why it matters if a variable is exported or not? What if a variable just exists? How is that variable different than an exported variable? And this behavior is very important to you if you're going to run shell scripts and do automated stuff inside of Bash. You're going to use Bash. A lot of us nowadays use more Ansible, or some people are even heavy on the Python side of things. Nothing wrong with that. But when you're doing Bash, why does it matter that you set a variable for this shell, and why does it matter that you've exported those variables later? That's something to think about. So you can go that out in the Googles and see if you can find out why. It's exported. I don't know that anyone can call it. It's still going to be internal to your shell. IOFault set export allows variable to be used outside the script. Includes permissions for the user. Focus says a variable will only be seen in the current environment. This is all true. But what happens? What an exported variable does is all child processes of this one here, this bash. So I'm in. If some of you guys haven't played with this, I am in this 101483 as my bash shell. If I type bash again, this is a fun one. Do you guys know if I did bash again and then I did bash again, I would be spawning lower shells than the one that I'm in? Did you guys know that? Some of you probably knew that. If I had just done this, I just went one shell down and one shell down. Inception, if you want to think of it like that. Non-exported variables did not come with me. Exported variables did come with me. So what I mean by that is I should in here be able to say echo LSF ENV DIR if it's there. Okay, put the $sign. And that followed me down. So watch, I'll exit, I'll do an echo $sign to see that I'm back in my original shell. And I'll just make a variable. Scott var, I'll do it in camel case for you guys, var equals, true, whatever, right? And then I'll echo Scott var, and it's there. But then I'll say bash and go down to another shell. This is a new shell, and echo Scott var. It's not there. So I'll exit back out and be in my old shell again, right? And I'm going to export Scott var, and then I'm going to go down to a new shell, yet another new shell, right? This is a brand new shell, and now if I echo Scott var, it's there. So when you export a variable, you are saying all child processes of this one can use it. I don't know what else is going on in the background of that, but I just know that that's the output for us on the system side of the world. So if you've never used that before, that's what's happening. All right, you go dig in more. Yeah, subshells. Yeah, so subshells are child processes. It's any child process of the process you're on, Colchis. And that export becomes very important when you fork or exec inside of a shell script. So if you fork or exec anything else and expect something you said earlier, like a log bar, or the things that I always set up in scripting are all of my variable paths at the beginning, like all of where we're writing crap out to and stuff, all my logs and stuff, and the initial timestamp. But if I don't share that down, it's not useful. What is a subshell used for? So Lesser sometimes you will want to do something in a script. You will want to fork off a process to go do something else while other things are still happening. Because you got to remember, scripts are at the end of the day top down, and you can turn them into like some basic functional programming, and you could throw in some functions and do some calling of things and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still just top down, right? That's all it is. It's a top down procedural, if you want to think of it like that, execution. But you can have things go off and do other stuff, or connect to other servers, and then wait for them and that kind of stuff. And if there was some variable that you assumed was still going to be needed, you would have to export it. I would tell you nowadays, in any kind of bash script that I could imagine, there'd be no reason to not just export all your variables. And what I mean by that is like it's so small of memory. Maybe back when we were doing like 512K of RAM and stuff, it probably mattered, every single variable that you're going to do whatever with. But that's not been a thing for 25 years. So I've never seen anything like that. So. All right, so that's that. So we come down here. So those are your labs things. You're going to do all the labs this week and that kind of stuff. And then questions, if you have questions for me on this specific stuff, go ahead and jump down in the Discord and ask them. Discord's always free. You guys, all this stuff, by the way, is free. We're not charging anything for this course. We are in Unit 5 of this. So So we're in Unit 5 of the Linux Systems Administration course, and if you're wondering what's been going on, we've got a syllabus up there. We've done all the basic stuff now. Those first 4 weeks, we did all the basic stuff around Linux. Now we're getting into security and users and scanning our environments and that kind of stuff. And then next week, we're going to be doing Firewall D and UFW, which is Uncomplicated Firewall. So we'll be doing that, and then we'll get into security patching and stuff like that. And one of the things you guys will note if you've been coming to any of these and looking at the recordings is, in the recordings, I am not just going, hey, get in a shell with me and do these commands over and over again. I do that stuff on other days because I do think the most important thing for a Linux admin is to have your hands on the keyboard typing stuff. But when we're learning the operational side of it, like we've been doing here, I've been focusing on these other components, and I've been letting you guys do that lab stuff on your own. Yeah, I won't do a lot with firewall chains. I'll show how IP tables used to work and how we can turn stuff into. I'll show you guys how I turn C router into a router if you want. But a Linux box as a router, not super important to do that kind of stuff anymore. Not like it was 20 years ago. But you can have a Linux device with 2 interfaces like I do, and over here it can take traffic and put it over there, and traffic over here and put it over there, based on routing tables. So you've turned a Linux box into a little router. That's not super difficult to do. So I'll show you guys how that works, and we'll probably do some basic little setup of that inside of the ProLug Labs next week. And this is what we're building towards. After we get done with security, we're going to focus heavily on scripting a lot of these things then. So I'm going to do scripting and system checks, and with scripting, I'm going to make you guys do Ansible. I'm going to have you guys start doing Ansible. And you might say, well, wait, isn't Ansible down here? Yeah, this will be more focused on like making Ansible production. I'll have you guys doing Bash and Ansible scripting because I think that's useful for Systems Administrator. We'll do some Docker and K3s just so you guys can practice with that. We'll get into monitoring of systems, which we do monitoring all over in the lab anyways. We'll go touch on some of the engineering concepts that are still useful for you as a Systems Administrator. And then when we're all done, we'll do some more troubleshooting and incident response stuff. So this was my high-level outline where we started. I should really just highlight this and say like this is all done, right? So maybe we highlight this as it's not gonna look. Oh no, it'll look not great in this. Okay. I'm colorblind, guys. Somebody help me out. Which one of these looks good? As like a done. Probably gonna look terrible. Oh, it looks terrible. All right.